What happens when your body completely changes overnight? Mona Hasegawa went from a healthy, active mother to needing a mobility device, even a wheelchair, after receiving the COVID vaccine. From misdiagnosis to failed treatments, she fought to reclaim her life. But through resilience and alternative healing, she's discovered a new life and purpose. You don't want to miss her powerful journey, and her story might change the way you see healing. So you got to watch this. Welcome to Navigating the Unknown with Nikki, a podcast in collaboration with React19. Together we share stories, support, and hope for those living with vaccine injury and chronic conditions. Welcome back to Navigating the Unknown with Nikki. This is where real people share real stories about their life after vaccine injury. Today's guest, Mona, knows firsthand what it means to lose the life she once knew and fight to build a new one. She is a mother, even a grandmother. Mona experienced life-altering symptoms just hours after the vaccine and has led to years of misdiagnosis, mobility loss, and pain. But despite it all, she's finding some management in alternative healing and strength, hope, and a new purpose in this very different body and life. Today, she'll share her journey, the struggles she's faced, and how shifting her mindset has played a major role in her healing. So let's dive in. Mona, thank you so much for being here and willing to share your story with us today. Let's start out with kind of before everything. Take us back to the beginning. What was life like for you at that point?
I was very active in my personal and professional life. I used to love hiking, swimming, bike riding with my kids. I was able to drive, which I'm not able to do now. Just being really involved with my kids. It's been very difficult doing all those things because this injury has affected every aspect of my life.
It has. And you know, you're the one injured, but everybody around you is affected. So what led you to get the vaccine, and which one did you get, and when did you get them?
So I got one dose of Pfizer on April 24th of 2021. I got the vaccine because, on media, there were in commercials and stuff to get vaccinated. And I was really scared of COVID. I thought, I don't want to die. Also, my dad was a dialysis patient. And at the clinic, they were telling him that anyone around him had to be vaccinated, or else if he did come across somebody that's not vaccinated, that he was no longer able to be able to get dialysis at the clinic.
We had a lot of pressure around us, especially with the media, and you know that was a factor in my choice to get my vaccine at the beginning too. And you think kids have peer pressure, adults still have to, that too. We
Right.
see what's going on, we see the pressure to do it. Then we also have the scare tactic that was going on. And those daily death tolls that they were putting on the TV and media, those were scary. And so you think, what if I'm one of those people that get it and don't fare as well? So you were just grasping at straws and that's what they told you. So definitely. And, people like your dad, to be around those that are more vulnerable, people were saying you have to have this in order to do that. And so, yeah, it definitely plays into that factor. So describe your symptoms. What happened right after the shot and the next little bit after it and the months after that?
So my first symptom was a little over an hour after my injection. I decided to go out to dinner after my vaccination. And when I was in the bathroom of the restaurant, the best way I could describe it is like a glitch in my head. Somehow I couldn't tell my brain to move my legs, which really scared me, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. And then days going forward, I had started getting like very heavy hips, joint pains, just feeling very fatigued. Basically, I was starting to get heart palpitations. And so that led me to go to the ER for the first time. And then they did heart tests on me and they told me nothing's wrong. So I went back home. And then shortly after that, I was going to the mall, food court, with my daughter. And before we stopped by the mall, I said, "Can you drop me off at CVS so that we can grab a cane. And my daughter was like, well, Mom, why do you need a cane? And I was like, why do I need a cane? It was like I needed something to support myself because I was feeling so heavy. I felt like my spine was like crushing, and I don't know, it was like a weight that was like, crushing me together. And then I was getting the weakness in my legs and stuff. So as we enter the mall, I ended up collapsing and I just laid there, and my daughter had to call 911. And that day I really thought I was going to die. I was thinking all the years I've worked so hard to get to where I am today. Am I going to die just by watching people's footsteps? You know, um, in the middle of the mall. I was like terrified. I was taken to the ER. Once we got to the ER, they kind of just pushed me into a room, kind of slammed the door. They left me in there for a very long time. And then they did testing on me and they told me nothing's wrong. So I went back home. My girlfriend's like, no, you have to go back to the ER. This is not, there's something wrong. So I ended up going back to a different hospital thinking they'll give me better care. I get there, they ended up admitting me. They ended up doing a spinal tap on me. They're trying to figure out what is going on with me because at this point, I couldn't even stand. I was having difficulty holding even my neck up. And so I had to wear a neck brace. I was just really scared for my life then. They diagnosed me with myasthenia gravis, which I'll talk about later on, which was a wrong diagnosis for me. They kind of, I feel like, just wanted to push me out of the hospital once I said that I think that this is from the vaccine.
A lot of people experience that. And everybody, if you mentioned vaccine at the beginning, most people would have an automatic shut off and try to push you out. I'm from a smaller town.
Mhm.
And I mentioned it in my history. I didn't like emphasize it, but I mentioned it, and they were receptive of it. And I think sometimes in smaller rural areas, people are a little bit more, it's more acceptable to question the government or question big things like this. So, but most of the time they were like, well, it could be, but we just don't know. And it
Right.
is. It's crazy that that creates that initial bias and you don't get the care you need.
No.
What was the timing? How long after your shot was this going on right now?
So it's been 4 years now.
Okay. And
Yeah.
at the time that you were in the hospital during those couple of times, was
Mhm.
that like a few months out or where were you at that point?
I think at that point I was about 3 weeks to a month.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that point, you talked about you got misdiagnosed. And just as a side note for everyone, myasthenia gravis, if you don't know what that is, basically it's a neuromuscular disease. Your nerves intersect your muscles produce a contraction because your nerves are telling them to. And so in a normal person, the nerve submits this thing, this receptor, a signal or a neurotransmitter and a signal to kind of make the muscles work, and it attaches on this receptor key site. But in myasthenia gravis, you have cells and antibodies that destroy those receptors or they block them and they can't create that communication and it leads to muscle weakness. Most of the time, people see it in the face or the limbs.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely come back. We'll come back to that
Yeah.
misdiagnosis. So you're at like a month right now. What happened over the next few months? Kind of tell us how this started to unfold more.
Well, even after getting diagnosed with MG, when I went home, I left the hospital with no wheelchair. Remember, I can't walk at this time. So basically, in order to get into my house, I was, like in the military, how you have to do this thing. So I was basically on the floor of my porch, trying to crawl myself up and like kind of wiggling my body up, you know.
That's crazy.
So then
Yes, it
so then
is.
after that, it was really difficult at home because somebody that was very active becomes this way. And like I was somebody that did everything in the house, cooking, cleaning. I was a single mom. So like I did everything on my own for many years. So when I became disabled, it kind of disrupted everything in the house, right? Because now there's no one to cook, there's no one to clean. I can't drive, so I can't even take my daughter to school. I thought I was going to die. So I ended up going to an MG specialist since they told me I had MG. The MG specialist told me that this is not MG, that this is F&D. So they wanted me to see somebody that works with this kind of F&D. I called there 2 times to make an appointment and they wouldn't take me as a patient. So I couldn't even prove myself that I don't F&D. So I was kind of left unable to walk with no doctor. And then, going forward, I have similar stories like other injured people where I've been to doctors, I guess trying to get answers of what's going on with me. I looked on Facebook and I was like, you know what? There has to be somebody that got vaccine injured too. Because at this point, I didn't even know that there were vaccine injuries. I never heard of it before. So basically, I connected with some people that have been experiencing similar symptoms as me. Through that, I ended up meeting a family physician, and he did believe in vaccine injuries. And then he was able to tell me that I am COVID vaccine injured. And he did try to help me by giving me ivermectin and different things to try to kind of relieve my symptoms. But as far as a neurologist and stuff, I did get a neurologist through, somebody was seeing this neurologist that was able to do a biopsy on me to check me for small fiber neuropathy. And then I did Washington U Labs that diagnosed me with CIDP. And the biopsy was positive for small fiber neuropathy.
That's a whirlwind, and unfortunately, very similar to a lot of our stories. Very similar to mine in nature as well. You go to these doctors, you go to the ER, the hospitals, you trying to find diagnosis. They either brush you off or maybe they do investigate and try to find anything, but these normal standardized tests are showing nothing. It's disheartening. I mean, at one point, I know it's horrible. At one point, I was thinking, can't they just find a tumor that I'm like, hey, that's the problem, that's the cause, because then we could treat it.
Yeah.
But no, we weren't finding clear cut answers. And that's hard when these doctors rely on these testing and they want a
Right.
black or white answer. And when they're not getting it, they are like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's F&D.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, okay, for once again, my side note, FND, functional neurological disorder. FND used to be called conversion disorder. It's now called FND. But basically what that diagnosis is when they can't find anything physically wrong in their testing, that they pretty much just chalk it up to here. And yes, stress can cause physical reactions. I mean, obviously, like when you're going to publicly speak, some people get red blotches. It does cause that, your brain processes it. But basically, when they've ruled out everything else, most of the time they're chalking it up to psychological things such as FND, conversion disorder, depression, anxiety, and several of us have that common thread. I had somebody start to go down that road, and before they could arrive at that destination, I disregarded them and I went somewhere else because I knew exactly that's where they were going. And, in the end, if we truly couldn't find any other answers, I would learn to accept that because people do have, issues with psychologically driven stuff. But in my heart, in my gut, I knew there was a lot more to this like everybody else, and it wasn't clear cut. And unfortunately, neurology, in my opinion, and especially the higher skilled specialists,
Mhm.
there was so much more gaslighting going on and egos being brought in that are like, no, it can't be that. That's safe and effective. It's nothing, that kind of thing. So that was very hard to find neurologists that were
Yeah.
willing to treat you and talk about things like this.
Because I even traveled to New York City where there's one of the best doctors and they kind of even brushed me off. And it really traumatized me. I suffer from medical trauma now from getting poked so many times, being gaslit, people not believing my feelings. All this is traumatizing. So now when I go to the doctors, I'm kind of like, is he going to believe me? Am I going to get help this time? So it's kind of like this traumatizing myself over and over again.
It is. Medical trauma is not something that you think about, but it's very huge. And I myself experience this, especially when I go to new doctors. I'm like, or even a new hospital, or even just if I have to go to the ER for something, and I've been there before, you never know. And your brain keeps saying, what are they going to do? Are they going to believe you? Are they going to take you serious? Are you going to get the care you need? are you going to find answers?
Right.
And, sometimes I'll sit there and I'll wait until it's too bad to go because of my reluctancy of they're not going to help me. I'll just take care of it on my own. And
Yeah.
it's got me into some bad situations in the past.
Yeah.
But this the sorry thing is they have the equipment and the skills that they should be utilizing that sometimes you can't do on your own.
Right.
And so a lot of us end up in worse situations because we don't want to go back and face possibly not getting care, spending the money, spending the time to get these things and get nowhere.
Yeah.
Medical trauma is huge. Definitely.
Yeah. And it's dangerous too because it's like, you wait at home for it to get better and sometimes it gets worse. So you're actually putting your life at risk from having the trauma. So, there's a lot of things that go along with this.
There is. And that's
Yeah.
why it's important to find a kind of a central source doctor, functional medicine, medical doctor, whatever route you go, to find that central source that is able to kind of talk it out, believes you, is able to listen to you, and you feel comfortable with as your starting point. Now, I know for me, I have that person. I have my primary care, and I absolutely love him. And we can talk it out. We can figure out what's working, what's not working. And he's kind of the one that is my gatekeeper to referral sources and
Hmm.
other doctors. But when I have to go beyond his general practitioner care to a
Yeah.
specialist, that's when that medical trauma all sets in. That kind of makes me
Yeah.
nervous.
I know.
So we're at the point, and I'll go in. I mentioned the myasthenia gravis, the FND. You
Hmm.
also mentioned CIDP.
Yeah.
CIDP is autoimmune disease, and basically it's where your body starts attacking the myelin, which is like you've got nerves and you've got this insulator, and that insulator is what makes those nerves conduct those signals fast enough to be able to create contractions of your muscles so you can move. When you break down that insulator, now you've got a nerve that's exposed, it could be damaged, and that signal's not going as fast. So you end up with issues such as the weakness, and it affects, your limbs,
Hmm.
the inability to move, and then also neuropathy, pain, numbness, tingling, burning, all of those. Just like Mona, I have CIDP too. So I completely understand some of these symptoms of your legs just feeling like cement. They feel like
Yeah.
somebody else's legs down there, not my own.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
what did you do after getting all these diagnoses, the misdiagnosis? What kind of treatments did you try, and what path did that lead you down?
Well, I ended up doing IVIG for a year. That neurologist that diagnosed me with CIDP was able to start me on IVIG, even though it was very hard through insurance. I got denied, denied, denied. And then finally I was able to get the IVIG and the nurse will come to my house. I can't remember how often it was. Sorry, brain fog. But I was getting the IVIG for a year. It was working for me, but I was suffering from side effects. So I had to kind of just listen to my body. I know it's helped many other people, the IVIG, but for myself, I made the decision to stop. I also tried hyperbaric oxygen chamber, but it's very, very expensive. I feel like you have to keep on taking it, right? So even though you feel a lot better, you wait like a couple weeks, a month, and then your symptoms kind of start coming back. I think it's something that you have to do consistently, which is very expensive. And most injured people, since they're not working right now, they can't afford these expensive treatments, right? So I also was introduced to a applied kinesiologist that was able to like really help me. He did body adjustments on me. Like he did like a stomach adjustment for hernia. Then he kind of like, I know this all sounds weird, but he did cranial. I think it's like when they adjust something through the mouth and adjust something, which really, it sounds weird, but it really did help me. And then he started me on natural supplements like adrenal support and stuff since my fight or flight is kind of stuck at flight mode all the time. So that led me towards, well, going back, the last time I was admitted in the hospital, the doctor told me that my case is too complicated, that there's nothing more they can do for me. And I just felt at the time that like they're just giving up on my life. I'm just another person coming into the hospital. At the time, I was like, no, there has to be something more. And, I was luckily introduced to a applied kinesiologist that was able to kind of get me out of that bad place where I thought nobody wanted to help me. And that's why I kind of lean towards alternative medicine because I feel like the people on the other side, they listen a little bit more. I feel like they want to find out what the root of the problem is. Where I think with pharmaceutical medication and Western medicine, it's kind of like covering up what the issue is, and then you might get different side effects from medication that you might be taking. Not to say not everybody does well with herbal medicine, because if you have things like mast cell activation, some people are very sensitive to different herbs and depending on what the capsules are made from and stuff like that. But for me, in my body, in my own experience, the supplements worked more than the other stuff they were trying to give me. And they have tried to put me on, like, you should see the box that I have. It has all these medications that people try
Yeah.
to put me on, but I don't know, my soul just tells me like to go this way. So I'm just following my gut, and that's what I'm doing right now.
That's what we have to do. We have to be our own advocate. I know I've preached this a lot lately in some previous videos that I've done, but being your own advocate, listening to that gut feeling, yes, you may not have a medical degree, you may not have some expertise and experience, but you're living in your body. So you are technically an expert of your body and symptoms. You know exactly what's going on, how it feels.
Yeah.
And because of that, you have to listen to your gut. I was completely like full force pharmaceutical medical system. That was my viewpoint because that's my background in professional training too. And it took me about a year to realize that there was a problem and they weren't going to be able to help me fully. And so I started to make that transition. And my approach now is I utilize both. And, some people may go full pharmaceutical medical. Some people may go alternative. People may use a little bit of both. You have to find out what is best for you. And
Right.
that's why I like to do these stories and to talk with people because I know if something's not working for me, I'll be like, hey, what did Mona say that she tried? Because guess what? I've got that extra tool in my toolbox now and I can go that route. And that's why I think it's important because there is no gold standard of treatment for
Right.
vaccine injury right now.
Yeah.
We are all affected differently. We are
Hmm.
all responding differently. I
Right.
know I've been on IVIG, I guess it's been 2 years, almost 2 years, well, a year and a half, and I've had great response to it. But I also know people that have had horrible side effects from IVIG. I didn't experience as much, but once again, we're all different human beings made differently. And so we're
Right.
going to have problems with different things. And I completely agree with you. When you talk about Western medicine, it is more of a world of, oh, that's your symptom. Let me give you this pill because it's going to help you with that symptom. It's going to band
Right.
aid, cover up. I don't really care what's causing it, but hey, we're going to fix that symptom. Well, oh gosh, I took this pill. Now I've got this symptom. Oh, I need a
Right.
pill for that too. And by the end, I think I was on 25 to 30 different pills.
Wow.
And it just was ridiculous. I had even one doctor said, well, you're too young. You shouldn't be on this many pills. And I said, well, tell your colleagues that because all the 9 different specialists that I'm seeing are each treating their own symptoms and nobody's connecting. And now I've got this slew of medication and I'm sure it all interacts and makes me even worse.
Yeah.
So you have to use your gut. You have to decide what is working. Hey, that may work for other people, but what is going to work for me? And I think alternative care, there is a lot to be learned. And I'm new to this approach in many ways. And I'm learning a lot myself. And, I've done the hyperbaric, like you said.
Hmm.
And I noticed that it did improve symptoms. But unfortunately, as soon as I stopped, those came right back, just like you. And it's expensive. I had somebody nearby that let me use one of their soft chambers at home,
Hmm.
but I can't afford to go in because insurance doesn't pay for those unless you have a set diagnosis. Just like IVIG. IVIG, like it's between $15 and $30,000 a treatment. I get mine every 3 weeks. If my insurance didn't pay, I wouldn't be getting IVIG. So it's just crazy. I think it is interesting approach, the applied kinesiologist. A lot of us, will go out to functional medicine doctors, naturopathic, chiropractors, any kind of alternative care. Applied kinesiologist, who did you hear about this? Was it a friend or how'd you even say, hey, I'm going to go see them? Yeah.
It was just through like a friend of a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was just kind of wanted to try it. Since like nobody else was like everybody else kind of just gave up on me. So it was like, hey, why not? And see how it goes. From the vaccine, I had many side effects. It wasn't just the leg weakness and stuff. I experienced ticks in my face and I make these ugly facial expressions. At the same time, I have facial weakness. So it's kind of like I have almost like a masked face all the time. And some people think, whoa, she always looks miserable. But that's not what it is. It's that I have the facial weakness and the tics. And it's been really hard for me to be social too. I usually don't like to go on camera because I feel like I'm being judged, right? So, which like turned a lot of things around too. Before my injury, I used to like worry about appearance. What am I wearing? How's my hair? Stuff like that. But now I feel like people have to look at me like from the inside, right? This injury has affected everything, right? So when I almost died, something happens to people, and then at that point, it's like no one's coming with you, right? No one's coming with you. Your kids aren't coming with you. Your partner's not coming with you. Your parents aren't coming with you. At the time, I knew that it was just like me and God. Um, at that time, and basically it changed everything, right, in my
Yeah.
life. I really, after the injury, I went through parts where I was angry. I had to go through my stage of acceptance that this could be me for the rest of my life. And I came to terms that I'm okay with being like this as long as like I'm a good person. I try to help others. Recently I found what my passion is, which is studying herbs and working towards goals and stuff really helps me to recreate my new life and just kind of spending more time with my kids because this is a second chance at life, right? So I'm trying to do the best things. It's like a new slate that you have. Okay, who do you want to be? How do you want your life to look like going forward, right? So right now I've accepted. Don't get me wrong, sometimes comes back where I'm like, I hate this. I'm dying, and this is a natural thing for a vaccine injured person to go through. The ups and downs. If you have like something that you're working on, it really makes a life easier, I feel like, because you have little goals that you need to meet each day, which has helped me to look forward to life. What's going to be, if I finish this project, new doors can open, right? So now I'm on this little adventure of this new life. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, in my new chapter.
And that is a wonderful mindset. And I think that knowing that you need to have that mind change, that shift in your mindset
Mhm.
is huge.
Yeah.
Doing it is a lot harder, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a daily battle by
Yep.
all means. It took a long time for me to accept that I may not get better because I was just waiting, no, it'll just be here. And as, weeks and months and years started to pass, it slowly set in that this is my reality. It may not change. I may not improve. It may be up and down. So what can I do? And the whole focus at that point was, maybe this is not going to improve, but I can improve my quality of life.
Yeah.
And once you figure out what care path you need to go to kind of help manage those symptoms, treat the source to try to create this better environment within your body. Once you get to that point, you've got to start focusing here. Because when you have injury, you have chronic illness, yes, you're dealing with surviving and you're dealing with everything like that and the symptoms that come with it. But mentally, if you don't take care of yourself, then you will end up basically making yourself worse. because your mind is what drives your body. And there is an aspect of mental part that plays into everything in your body and how well you respond to treatment, how well you respond to tolerance of pain and symptoms. And so it's huge. And finding that purpose, finding something that gives you quality of life. I know for me, I had a trach for three years. And at the end, my doctor didn't want to remove it. She said, I can't really tell you that these are gone forever because I was having spasms of the throat. I couldn't tell you that these are gone forever, but I went a year without one. She's like, well, that's a pretty good record. She said, I know you know what you're, thinking and it's your body. And if you are wanting to do this and realize and accept the consequences if you were to have one without it, then I'll take it out. And for me, that's just one aspect of quality of life. You have to determine what is going to make your life better. And for me, it was removing the comfort of not having it, even with the risk involved. And just like that, with purpose and everyday activities, me starting this whole podcast and YouTube thing, it's a stretch for me because you may think I'm extrovert and people person, but I'm not a people person. I'm more of an introvert hermit person.
Yeah, I'm similar to that.
Professionally, I could talk with my patients all day long, but when I came home, it was me. Okay,
Yeah,
leave me alone. I'm here. But yes, you have to find something, and giving back to people is huge because it makes you feel like you are worth somebody if you can help somebody else. And
right.
I think it's neat that you have taken on this journey to study more about herbs.
Mhm.
Obviously it's a big part of what you're doing right now.
Right.
And to learn even more about it, that is an awesome little path to go down to help with that aspect of quality of
Like,
life.
taking the classes has been very challenging. Obviously I can't go to school anywhere because of my health conditions,
Mhm.
but at home I'm like, so I took a course that basically is on your own time. So if I'm not feeling good one day, then I don't have to be in class, right? So I took something that would go at my own, even though I have a time limit of a year and a half to finish this course, and I am a little behind. But I think that it doesn't matter, like, if I am behind or not. I think the end goal is to feel like I have accomplished something, right?
Right.
Whether if it takes 2 years or 3 years to finish this, if could just work towards finishing this goal, then I think it's going to bring my self-confidence back up, right? To feel
Mhm.
that I can still accomplish something even if you're chronically ill.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
huge. Being able to accomplish anything is huge. And you talked about that near death experience. We've gone through situations like this, especially the vaccine injured, where you feel like your body is shutting down.
Yeah.
And, even to the point of, am I going to die? This is reality. This is something that could happen. And with that, there is something that happens in the brain of a human that it sets a lot of things into perspective when you get that bad. And for me, it definitely did. I've always been a positive person,
Mhm.
but I went through a lot of negativity when all this started in my brain. But because I've had that experience, it was easy for me to say, okay, let's pull up my big girl panties and take this on. Because I had that change in perspective. And it changes everything about you and it changes you as a person.
Yeah.
But it's something that is a scary situation that can be used for good.
Yeah, exactly. And
So, if you had to go back towards the beginning of all this,
mhm.
you know, say you just got your vaccine, you just started experiencing all these symptoms, and things are going downhill quick. And you said, hey, Mona, I want you to know this. You're 4 years after the fact. You've been through a enormous amount of stuff and struggle and heartache. What would you go back and tell that version of Mona at that point?
I think that I would first tell her that your feelings are valid, since people may not tell you that what you're feeling is real. So the first thing I'll say is your feelings are valid. And then I would probably just like hold her hand, because I know even though people can't possibly help a vaccine injured person at the time of going through this, the comfort, I think I would say comforting things, make sure that I feel like somebody's beside me holding my hand, and kind of like making me feel like I want to feel comfort, you know? I think just feeling comfortable and not feeling alone in this journey would really help, and to hang on to hope, because there was a time when I thought that I was never going to walk, that I was going to be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Right now, I still do use a scooter, but I am able to stand longer than I used to be able to stand. And I am able to take more walks than I did 4 years ago, right? Where I thought in my mind that this was going to be my forever. So I would say hang on to hope. I do believe in miracles. Miracles do happen. And if you just keep strong and keep going and keep fighting, that I think things would change. Yeah.
I think that's wonderful advice. Those are exactly some of the things I would tell myself when all this started. Hey, it's okay. What you're feeling is real. There are others out there. You are not alone. Because you feel completely alone and isolated, especially in this situation with all the stuff going around vaccine injury. And, through those words that you would tell your former version of yourself,
Mhm.
those are definitely words of inspiration and encouragement to others that may be in the beginning process of all this starting, in the middle, or years out from it. Those are words of advice for any person at any stage. Do you have anything else that you would like to leave with our audience today as far as hope or encouragement about journey and healing for vaccine injury?
I think that talking about hanging on to hope and talking about working on something, your passion, even like your passion, sometimes for some people it takes time, right? To figure out what that is. So just know like there's no time schedule on this. So if one day you're feeling really down, that doesn't mean that tomorrow can't be a new day with a different mindset. So I think just keep on trying, taking one day at a time. I guess keep on pushing to see what kind of goals you can meet.
I think that is absolutely wonderful advice. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Mona, for once again being willing to share and open up and tell everybody your story, because that's how we learn. We learn from each other. We are inspired from each other. And so I can definitely say that your story is inspiring, like so many of ours out there. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
Mona's story is one of resilience, adaptation, and discovering new purpose after loss. While her journey has been filled with pain and uncertainty, she's proving that healing isn't just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, and spiritual. If you're struggling, know that you are not alone. Healing is possible, and there's hope in this journey. If you want to connect, share your own story, or even learn more about healing resources, visit www.vaccineinjuryhealing.com. And if this episode resonates with you, please share, like, and subscribe to be notified when I release a new episode of this podcast, and help spread awareness and hope for the vaccine injured. Make sure to check out the podcast playlist to see more episodes and stories from vaccine injured with hope and inspiration, as well as some guidance from some expert guests. And if you missed the previous episodes, make sure you go back and watch, because you're going to want to see. And I will see you in the next episode.